Hey there folks, welcome back to Tabletop Glory. My name is Graham Johnson, and today we're going to be finishing off Orktober. Now, you saw these guys last week. We're going to be doing the rest of the kill team this week. We're going to be doing a bit of a focus on the main character or the boss or the commander or whatever you want to call him, but we're going to do a quick recap of what we did last week, along with my reasons as to why I chose the colors that I did. So just a quick recap on the paint. It is a green blend from above, and we're going on the pale green side, and we're painting a pale purple from beneath. This is both to reinforce the shadows and to make things feel like they're lurking around in the dark, but also to play off the idea of you've never seen a purple orc because they're very sneaky or they're straight up invisible. I really love orc colors and how they kind of play into the lore, and I don't go super heavy with that in these miniatures, but I just really love the idea of these more natural skin tones on orcs, but also playing into the orc lore by including purple in the skin tone. It's something I've always wanted to see, and I almost wanted this almost borderline gray zenithal highlight look to the skin. I really wanted things to be quite pale, and a few of them get a little darker on the green side than others, but I think that really helps them to stand out on the table and makes them not all look so cookie cutter when you're just looking at the kill team as a whole. Sticking with more realistic colors, when I'm going for a more realistic feel, I tend to choose much darker colors for my leather. So although I am for the backpacks all doing them up in Gunthor fur, which is the contrast paint from Citadel, I am doing all of the straps and belts in a much darker dryad bark kind of color. In this case, I'm actually going with German dark brown from Vallejo, but it's so close to dryad bark that if you have dryad bark, you can absolutely use that. And if you really want it deep, you can just add a little bit of black to that, and it'll look pretty much the exact same. Now, when it comes to the highlight colors, you could use a real mix of colors. I'm going for Talaran Sand just because it's not in your face, it's not a huge punch of color, and then any places where I really want a bit of punch of color to really make the belts look old, I'll be highlighting that again with a color from Golden that is basically Idoneth Deepkin or Wraithbone if you have it. Those two colors are very similar for doing this style thing, and it does a really good job at an aged leather effect. And you really don't need to add any washes when you use a deep dark brown like this. You can just come in with that edge highlight, and in my opinion, I think it looks great. And I don't have any footage of me highlighting it right here, but we will have some more at the end. I just got a bit of a leg up in blocking out some of the colors on this guy in the first video, which is why I wanted to include him in the recap. And this is the figure that we will be focusing on for the second half of the video. Now, a lot of times on orcs, you'll see these really beautiful deep scars where they've been patched up a lot over time. Orcs have just a lot of beautiful detail in their skin, and I never really got a good clip of me doing the scars, so I'm just going to briefly explain how I paint the scars on orcs, and you could pretty much apply this to any miniature. You just go a little bit more vibrant on orcs than what you would do, say, a human character, where you want the colors to maybe be a little bit more subtle. So I use Emperor's Children, and I water it down and thin it down, and I just apply it to the crack, and I do about 3 coats of that, and that's enough to give it a nice pop of color. And then if you really want to make things irritated, you can put a little bit of Drukhari Violet or some kind of a watered down purple wash in a wet palette and really thin it out. And just lightly glaze it along the edges of those scars, or anywhere where, like on the orc with his power claw, where the skin meets the metal, and just kind of glaze that in. You could even do a little bit of red as well if you want it to look a little bit more recent. But if you want it to look like it's starting to heal, you can use blues and purples and just kind of very lightly layer that up, 2 or 3 layers back and forth between some different colors, and you'll get these really, really beautiful scars. There's pretty much 3 metallics that I'm using throughout all of these miniatures. I'm using my go-to gunmetal gray that you see me use in every video, but I'm also using Army Painter paints this time around, and I'm using shining silver, which I'm using for bullet tips and any highlights that I want to put on top of the gunmetal, as well as I'm using greedy gold with a combination of different washes on top to create a almost bronzy copper like finish for the bullet casings and a few other miscellaneous details. Now I've used a variety of different colors on their shirts and various parts of their clothing. However, for the case of these off-white shirts, we've used Titan Buff, and I've used a few different washes such as Fugan Orange and a watered down Agrax Earthshade. Now I have used a combination of those across all of their colors to all of their clothes to add some depth to the colors. The only thing that I haven't added it to are their pants, because I'm planning to dirty those up in the weathering process, and so those will get some dry pigments put on them to kind of blend them into their bases. Speaking of their pants, I chose a mixture of blue jeans and some leather pants, but mostly I went with these urban tricolor camo pants. Now, I'm just using a mixture of brown, green, and black on top of gray, and I think it gets the job done just fine. And we're just using the cow spots technique, where I'm basically just drawing cow spots of different color. I'm not going for any one particular design. I'm not trying to go for tiger stripes or digital camo or anything like that. I'm pretty sure the orcs have made these themselves, and if anything, they'd probably more likely be handprints than anything else. But I just wanted to go with something like this, as I'm sure they've seen quite a few Humies using camouflage, especially if they're going up against somebody like the Krieg. At this point, I'd pretty much blocked in all of the colors. What this really left over was things like boots and arm bracers and things like that, and I decided to block a lot of that in with the same brown I had used on the backpack. However, there are some bandage-like bindings on a lot of things like their equipment and in a few cases around their wrists. And for that, I simply took the Titan Buff and then lightly went over it with some Skeletal Horde. I find this is a really great way to kind of do like an aged bandage effect. And if you're interested in doing mummies or anything like that, or even some zombies, I think that effect works really, really well on them. You just do 2 or 3 coats and it really dirties them up and really ages them a lot. Now from this point forward, I'm kind of just reiterating the things I've already talked about while putting this all on the commander and doing a little bit more edge highlighting and a little more detailing, as well as ultimately the basing and the final weathering. And for the basing and the weathering, I'm just going to keep things simple. I'm going to make it look like a battleground taking place inside a city, and keep it simple like that. You know, use neutral grays and browns for weathering. I know it can be pretty difficult to kind of see what's going on here. This is playing back at 8 times speed, but this is just me just blazing through as a time lapse of me painting this singular figure. If you would like to see a more slowed down version of this where it's only going to play back at 2 times speed, I will be uploading that to Patreon. In addition, I will also be uploading to Patreon a video of how I do quick and easy road bases. So if that's something that you're interested in and you like how the bases look at the end of this video, maybe consider going over and checking out Patreon. I'd really appreciate it. I'm just gonna go ahead and let this time lapse play out. If you're not interested in this, you can just skip to the end and see the final result. In any case, guys, thank you so much for watching. We'll go ahead and do our outro at the end, but if you're just going to tune out here, thank you for watching this far. I really do appreciate it. right, and there you have it, folks. This is Orktober, all finished. Again, this is from the Octarius Kill Team box. This is the Ork Kommandos from that box, and if you just get the Ork Kommandos on their own, you'll get these same miniatures with all their wonderful options. There are plenty of bits that come with this kit, so there's plenty to customize. They aren't going to just look like how mine turned out. They're going to look great. They're going to look the way you want them to. These were a lot of fun. There is a whole lot more that I could have done with these. However, I wanted to try to knock these out within a single month and get them done to a relatively high standard. I was shooting for TableTop Plus. In some aspects I hit that, and others I definitely missed that, like with the bases. This is very much just a wargaming standard to get it on the table and play with, but I think they turned out just fine and look just fine. And I think the miniatures look awesome. Now, I didn't go overkill with all of the edge highlights, but honestly, I don't think they need it. I think selective edge highlighting works wonders on your miniatures and really helps to draw the eye to the details you want them on the individual mini. In any case, thank you so much for watching. May your display case always be filled and your pile of shame never run empty. Until next time. Just real quick before you guys get going here, I just wanted to show you what my desk looks like when I'm done painting miniatures for a video. Sometimes I keep things pretty simple and I stick to a very strict color palette, and other times I just experiment around and have a ton of fun. Part of having a ton of fun, though, means that my color blindness plays hell, and I have to get a lot of paints out to end up with the blends and the colors that I want. So if you guys make a mess like I do when you do miniature painting and you kind of feel bad about it, or you kind of burn out and don't want to put things away, know that you guys are not in that boat alone. I do it too. Sometimes I end up leaving paints out for multiple projects, and then I end up in a situation where my paint rack is basically empty and my desk is full. So just know that I do it too. You're not in it alone. But yeah, I just wanted to share this. Thanks for watching, guys. I'll catch you next time.